How y'all doing? Yeah, y'all are good athletes. Welcome to this presentation of Sinners, aka Church. We got a lot of folks here involved with the film. I've wasted no time bringing them out. Please welcome casting director Francine Maisler, the cinematographer of Sinners, Autumn Durand Archipel, its production designer Hannah Beechler, the illustrious costume designer Ruth E. Carter, Miss Ruth E. Carter, and the stars of Sinners, Jamie Lawson, Wumi Musaku, Miles Payton, the legendary Michael B. Jordan, and of course, the man without whom this film would not exist, Ryan Coogler. How does it feel to be y'all right now, man? We got, I guess, so many people. I want to get to everyone. So, Ryan, I want to jump right in, man. I just want to know, coming at this point in your career, what made you decide this was going to be your next film, and how did you come up with the concept for it?
We did Panther, basically like, we were working on Panther 2, Wakanda Forever. Starting like 2019-ish. And then the pandemic happened, and then Chadwick passed away. And we ended up being on that movie for me it was like, a good 3 years. There was multiple points on that movie where we didn't know if we were gonna be able to finish it. Whenever you used to working faster than that, you start to get a little anxious. And with the pandemic came a lot of existential threats to the idea of what we do. Some of my favorite theaters closed, like the ArcLight Hollywood, for one, and things started to slow down. Movies were getting put on streaming services, so it was kind of like an existential thing. So I started to think about, if I got a shot at making another movie, I want to do something really personal and something really different from what I've been doing for the past decade, which was really like sequels, deeply personal ones, but sequels yet and still. So then coming off that movie, we had the strikes. The Writers Guild strike, the SAG after strike, and again, like the existential threats to what we do, and I'll never forget while I was home, listening to a blues record, as I often would, to remind myself of my uncle. The idea hit me, and once it kind of stuck in my head, I pitched it to Ryan Coogler, my wife and producer on the movie. And yeah, after the first pitch didn't go so well, but after did some retooling and kept coming back, and then she was like, okay, yeah, maybe that might make some sense. Then we pitched Sev Ohanian, our partner at Proximity, and then eventually I told Ludwig Göransson, our composer, about it, and then I got to work on research, and then got to work writing.
I heard you were doing the dishes when you had this idea.
This is true. Yeah. So
I mean, first of all, the fact that he does the dishes, round of applause for that.
It ain't every day I'm doing them, but it just so happens. I'm always doing them that day. Yeah.
I gotta be hard. I don't come up with shit like this when I'm doing the dishes.
Gotta put some Howlin' Wolf on next time, and maybe.
Noted. It's kind of cool, all the names that you mentioned and that you ran the idea by, that you worked with on this film. None more important, or all as important as the man sitting next to you, Michael B. Jordan. You guys have done fifth collaboration at this point that you guys have done as director and actor.
Yeah, it's our fifth time in this position, but I also had the incredible chance to produce for him too. Executive produced Creed 2 when he acted in. And then his directorial debut, Creed 3.
Yeah. At what point did Ryan come to you and say he wanted to do this project and he wanted you to play 50,000 roles?
Yeah, that was another quick story. I was actually calling him to pitch a project to him, and he was like, "Yeah, I see your pitch, and I raise you this one." and when he started telling me the idea of it, he would drop these bombs on me. You know, if the route was, "Oh yeah," and you playing identical twins, like, huh? And then there's vampires. Wait, what? You know, it was like these kind of like moments that made the story and the overall film, the idea of the movie, that much more interesting. So it kind of went down like that. You know, a quick read. Usually when he calls me and pitches an idea, he usually gets a quick answer from me. You know, so it was like almost an immediate yes. And I remember being, you know, really, you know, nervous a little bit about the idea of it. But at the same time, equally as excited at the challenge of it, and I think that's one of the reasons why, you know, Coog really wanted to, you know, push this idea, the fact to get me out of my comfort zone and push me to a performance and something that I haven't really done before, you know, and it would be the first movie that I would do after directing, and he wanted me to kind of, you know, take a back seat from directing and just turn that part of my brain off and strictly focus on the performance and the task at hand, which would be an extremely challenging one, playing both roles, and so that's kind of how it went down.
Miles, on the opposite end of the spectrum, not only your first time working with Ryan, it's your first time acting, period, correct?
Yeah.
So what was the process like for you, you know, when Ryan reached out, auditioning for Francine? Just tell me about the journey you've gone on to perform this role.
Yeah. It started out with me singing background for her towards the end of the tour. Yeah, shout out to her. Somebody at the show saw me perform, and they said he should audition for this movie. And she called me one day and told me, she's like, you know, they want you to audition for this movie. It was super top secret, didn't have any information. And so I sent in my first interview, got a call back. Then I got the sides, which the prompt was like, he was a 19-year-old sharecropper who would have been like Sam Cooke if it was 20 years later or something. So I'm like, oh, it's gonna be a music biopic, you know, something. It wasn't that. I sent that in. Then after that, I got another call back, and that's when they flew me out to LA. And Francine had showed my video to Ryan, and I did the in-person audition with Francine, Mike.
But wait, we could barely see you on the audition. Right, Ryan?
We don't have.
Go ahead.
He was in there.
Go ahead, I got it.
He was the audition tape came in, and he was in like a dark basement.
Miles said,
And I'm like, I looked at him like, yo, this kid didn't even know to turn the lights on. and then you hear this voice, he's like, hey, I'm Miles Kate. I'm gonna be singing this song by Sam Cooke. And I was like, where's from this kid? And then he started singing, and it was like Jesus Christ, but you couldn't really see him that well. So we asked for the call back, and then we couldn't find him. Remember?
And he had like a ring light. What did you have? I don't know.
I was trying to set the ambiance. I was trying to make it a moody hobby. I had the ring light. I thought it was something.
We gotta finish this damn story. So then he comes down like,
All right. So I'll brag on the young man real quick. We reached out for a callback, heard nothing. It was crickets, and we got a bunch of other callbacks that were okay. But now I'm like Francine, what's going on with this kid in the dark? And she's like, I can't find him. He won't hit us back. And then eventually she sends me a Instagram posting, and it's him in his cap and gown, and his mom he's walking through a parking lot. I get choked up thinking about this, and his mom is narrating. She's saying, yo, he did all these tours all over the world, and he still came home and finished his got his diploma. I was like, oh, this kid,
kids were finishing school, you know what I mean? While he's on tour, and then he eventually sent this call back, and it, you know, blew everybody away. And then he came in for the chemistry read with Mike, and we had Ludwig come just to see how good he was with the guitar. And it turns out he's a musical prodigy, but you know, grew up playing the piano. And he had kind of learned the guitar that day for the audition. Wow. And so you know, we casted him, and he immediately got set up with a guitar teacher, and he learned like slide blues resonator guitar in like 2 months. Wow. You know.
Can I just say one thing?
Just so you know, Michael B. was so generous that day in the room, and he opened his arms and like took him on, you know, and I think that's what every actor, you know, hopes that will happen when they come in for any audition, not just this first. So I mean, you know, Michael B's the man when it comes to helping other actors.
Yeah.
Which brings me to Miss Wumi. So, in this movie, yes. The thing with Sinners is that there are multiple films within this film, and there are multiple emotions, multiple layers of spirituality, culture. There's something going on between the character of Annie and Smoke early in this film that is so intense, so deep. It's subtext that's performed, you know, between you two actors. What was it like building this character, knowing that ultimately she got to explain to everybody, you need garlic to kill vampires. But in the beginning of the film, we're gonna feel this deep, this mourning, this almost Jeremiah that's being performed between you and MBJ.
I feel like, you know, again, like Francine said, from the moment I met Michael, he kind of was just so open and generous. From my first like chemistry read with him, and so
And it was hot.
we just really shared. Me, Michael, Ryan, in Ryan's office in the rehearsal, we just shared about like our lives and the things that we love the most, the things we're scared of, our own grief and hopes and dreams, and we just shared. And so, I don't know, we created this really sacred space to explore, to challenge each other, to take risks, and it just felt really natural. It didn't feel like, I don't know, it just felt like everything was on the page. Everything I needed to know about Annie was in those 7 pages. Like clear as day. Even his mojo bag. Like, I feel like when they met, she poured everything she had into that mojo bag. So much so that he's like, I know it works, but why didn't it work for her? And it's just that love is so powerful, so pure, so connected. I don't know, it was just Smoke and Annie. It was just so pure.
You know, you're sitting next to Jamie, and so I wanna make this connection, and I wanna shout you out, bro. The black women in this film are carrying so much energy, so much of the subtext of the film. I think Perline's journey is a bit different. There's this, she's in this life that isn't allowing her to be liberated, to be as free as she wants to be. Same thing in this film, you go on this journey, when first meets you, it's a different, almost like a different character, a different version of herself she is allowed to reveal to the world. Just tell me about building this character, Miss Lawson, and playing with all these wonderful folks.
Yeah, I got to have a lot of fun on this one. I also love what you said, like for Perline, there's a liberation there, and I just love how that was crafted and written. I think a lot of times Ryan does a wonderful job in this movie of subverting a lot of ideas when we set something in the Jim Crow South. And I even think when we talk about women's liberation and the way in which that's depicted, and you get to see this young woman who is a sharecropper, who has this old husband, that she don't want nothing to do with. And there's different levels of oppression that she's having to navigate, and she finds freedom in these juke joints. And when she gets up there, and when she gets to sing, and when she gets to be around these performers. And so that was something that I was excited to build, is like, who is this woman when she's speaking versus when she's singing? And then who is this woman when she gets to get her body involved and she gets to let loose? And really, and then also like getting to watch Ludwig in the process of making this song with Brittany Howard, and hearing how it is this, you know, and I was like, yes, like I would love to get to craft that. And then getting to work with Miles, who is such a gifted individual. It really worked for our characters that we get to feed off of each other in that way. You know, that Perlene gets to hear him sing, and that wakes something up in her to give the performance of her life. You know, I really enjoyed myself, I have to say, and it was a gift, and I am forever grateful to Ryan for it, honestly. Woo!
Ms. Carter, I wanted to speak to the cast first because it's interesting. We, you know, when we make a film, you know, these folks come in, they embody these characters, and then it's your job, it's written on the body in a certain way. The clothes they're wearing, the way they move, says so much about their characters. Talk to me about working with Ryan and just building out the wardrobe on this film.
Yes, there's a level of trust that starts it all out. Ryan called and said that, you know, we were making a movie about the Mississippi Delta in 1931, and that sparked the passion in me to tell African American history. Also that Michael would be playing his own twin, and I was like, to Michael B. Jordan. Nice. And you know, dressing him in a period look. And then meeting the cast, you know, they come into my fitting room, and it's a transformation process. For Smoke and Stack, one side of the room was red, the other side of the room was blue, and that came from Ryan, who wanted them to be separated in that way, but I had to bring the authenticity of the period to those colors. And so we went on a journey of discovery. We went on a journey of discovery with the whole cast. You know, Wumni comes into the fitting room, and we're wrapping her own mojo bag, and we're trying to find what colors tell the story, because colors were also very spiritual to this story. And Miles comes in, and this is his first time in a movie fitting, so he's like, I don't know anything about these clothes. But he trusted us, so that level of trust, I think, in give and take was very prevalent in the fitting room, and was very helpful for the transformation process, because, you know, we did a lot of trials. I remember Ryan came into Michael's fitting just as he put on the red hat, and he went crazy. And he went upstairs, and people were coming down, and he was like, let's see that red hat, what red hat? So, you know, it's a real family, it's a real sharing, it's a real trust, and, you know, when you have a love for cinema, when you have a love for telling the history of African Americans in the South, the Mississippi Delta, where they produced the music from nothing, and you see the imagery and the photography, and you really want to bring these images to life. So when Jamie comes in and she's standing there as Perlene, you know, she's embodying the spirit of this woman before we even step into the clothes. Like, I could feel it. And when we felt like we had it right, it was really right. Her dress at the train station is my favorite. It's very sweet. It lets let you know that these people traveled from plantation to plantation. These plantations were right next to each other. And so when we brought in the blues players and we could give them like a subtext, we could give them a story that they were traveling around playing the blues, and that informed what they looked like because, that's the only way they could make any money. There was, it was really tough times. We were starting into the Depression in 1929. So we also wanted to not show everyone in the exact period of the times. We wanted to bring it back some because they're sharecroppers. If they came to the juke joint in their best dress, it was 3 years old, 4 years old, they may have made it themselves. So we played with the time, and because fashion doesn't evolve evenly, especially for sharecroppers. So that informed so much, and the actors were just, so generous in the fitting room and allowing me to play, to experiment, to find it. We were all trying to find the characters, and I felt like we successfully did so.
Yes, you did.
Hannah, the question I want to ask you falls along similar lines. I do want to say, on this stage, there are 3 people who've been there from the beginning. It's you, Ryan, and Michael B. Jordan, because you were also on Fruitvale Station. What was it like?
I was also on Moonlight.
I know you were. I was gonna say, you were all
Yes,
Moonlight.
you were 2 of the directors that I worked with. That's awesome.
I was gonna say, you were all Moonlight because of Fruitvale Station. I was like, can I have it just for a little bit? So talk to me about building, especially again, you're on the same journey. The movie begins as one thing. It's almost like a text, from history, and then it morphs into this really massive genre film, but it's got to function in both ways. Talk to me about just the approach to production design and the first conversation with Ryan about building centers.
Yeah, much like Ruth, Ryan gave me a call and was like, this movie, and he's like, I always say Ryan's like my griot, right? He tells me the story. He tells me about the people, the place, their wants, their desires, their pains, their struggles. Like he's really building out who the people that occupy the space are. So then I can really imagine the space. I can really imagine where they are because I understand who they are, who these characters are. And so that really informed, and he was like, is it gonna be a cotton gin or a sawmill? And let's, wanted me to kind of dig in and understand which ones of those really would serve the purpose. And, when Ryan asked me to dig in, he's probably gonna get a 200-page something or 400-page something back because I just go in, I want to make sure that he's got the information and we can talk about why this might work and the economy, and so it goes really there. And then he's like, it's a sawmill, and he liked that idea. So, and a lot of my influence came from, when you think about, and I will say Dennis Gassner, who did, oh, why did I forget which Tim Burton movie? Which one? Ryan, why am I forgetting them?
Big Fish?
Big Fish. So sorry. So sorry, Tim Burton and Dennis Gassner. I'll never again forget. But that, because there was such, and Sergio Leone, a lot of the big 4, right, of the Clint Eastwood movies, and Searchers, Tom Ford, Stagecoach, you've got these, Wild Bunch. It's these really vast environments, these big landscapes, right? These 70 millimeter and IMAX, so you're gonna have all these big landscapes, big sky, big Mississippi, cotton is king. And I wanted to, in that inspiration of these films, is put a really extreme sort of geometrical shape that's small in that frame into these big environments. And so that really influenced me, and it influenced me to kind of go from this purity of white, right, to the juke joint. Now I obviously didn't know what order at that time that it would go into because he was still writing, but I felt like, okay, from what he's told me at that point, this is sort of what I want to do. So I just went in on the research, and then I started sketching and drawing, and I remember I sent him the sketch of the church, Annie's, and the juke joint. Those are the first three things that I designed. I like went into a trance.
All bills too.
All built.
Juke joining and
Yep.
track.
2 juke joints. The one on location, we're just gonna do the front. We're gonna do the front and 2 sides. All right, we're gonna do the front and the front door. Okay, we're gonna do the front. We're gonna do all of that, and then we're gonna do a little bit when you open the door, in the main. Okay, well, then we're gonna just do, and then on stage it was, okay, we're gonna do the outside. Okay, then we're gonna bring in dirt, or we're gonna bring in the cars, or we're gonna bring in all of the greens as well. So we kind of had 2 joints, but and I kind of just went into this place and I, took pictures of the sketches and sent them to Ryan. I'm like, this is really like what I'm feeling for Annie's. This is really spiritual. She's from New Orleans, practicing hoodoo. I live in New Orleans for 25 years now, and like really felt that, kind of had understood that being in New Orleans and wanting to bring like that flavor of New Orleans to her in a way, to Maybelle Plantation. And the locations were really important. Like Ryan was like, I see oak trees around her. I'm like, I know exactly where that is, And we pushed and pushed and pushed. I'm like, I just wasn't gonna settle for any other location. And that location, I brought Ryan, and I'm like, doing the thing. And so it was really just the stories that he said, he's told me, and then finding that and going in on that, and really just putting the detail in there and putting the history and really working on the process of the builds and how are we gonna age it so it doesn't look like a set, like it doesn't look like it just went there. It looks like it's always been there. And it was funny because when we were at Annie's, one of the Teamsters came up to me and he was like, I've been here lots of times and I didn't realize that this was here. He's like, I didn't know this cabin was back here. And I was like, because it wasn't. And you're always like sort of torn where you're like, yes, we did the thing that we wanted to do, and then like, but we'd actually built it and did the work. But that's what I wanted to feel the whole time, like it's lived in, it's been there, because you have these performances that then awaken the set. And I wanted everything to awaken. And when you get to the juke joint, I brought a piece of every person into that. So you have Annie's oak trees in there. You've got the church, the X's of the church in the juke joint. You've got the grocery store in the juke joint. So all of those pieces of all of those people coming into there and colliding and building and building and building. So when you first see it with Hotwood, it's benign. But by the time you get to the stage with Sammy, you see that like darkness coming up on the back wall. You see the herringbone pattern. It's warmth in there. You've got the red. And then when Perline is on stage and it's stomping, right? It's like you've got the dance floor where we built it so it kind of like did this movement, right? And even if you don't see it, for me, what's important is that the extras feel it, that Annie feels it, that Perline feels that, so they can have these performances. And so I want to give, and so she can light. That's my favorite thing. Like I'll put stuff everywhere and I'll be like, Autumn's gonna find it. Autumn's gonna find it. And my one favorite thing, I'll tell one story because I love an antidote, right? And my favorite thing, and I'll just have to go back because then it shows up on Sinners, but Ryan said to me one day on Wakanda Forever, he's like, yeah, I was having this meeting with with Autumn about a shot in Shuri's, and Ryan was like, it's gonna be like right here, right? Like right here. And Autumn goes, why don't we do this? And he's like, Hannah's gonna love that because it's wide. And so we get to Sinners and it's just like these beautiful wides, this beautiful cinematography, beautiful costumes, beautiful performances. And it's everything I do is for that. I've got Ryan and Michael that have been in my life for 13 years, and I've watched these guys become, a director, become a father, become a businessman, and grow. And as they change, my designs have matured and changed with them throughout this whole journey. And with Ryan, you don't know what kind of phone call you're gonna get, right? It's like, hey, Rocky. And I was like, Rocky? And then, hey, Black Panther, my son was like, Marvel, I don't know anything about that. And then it was like, okay, 1930s Mississippi, vampires. So, vampires, I was like the Lost Boys? And because everybody loves the Lost Boys, right? So let's give an applause to that. And so it's this journey, and that's the destination with Ryan, is the adventure. And you just have to give yourself over to it. And with that, there is this free will of creativity. While you have this leader and this guidance, it's the guidance of your ability to create. And that is something that you don't ever want to give up and that you always fight for. So when Ryan says, I need water next to the sawmill, well, we're not going to stop until we find water next to the sawmill. Like, it's not, so that's, and boy, and because I'm a little crazy, and you need that, right? And a little sensitive, because to be able to do this and dig in and dig deep, you've got to have that sensitivity. And when I get to see the actors on the sets, and I get to see them in the costumes, and I'm looking in the monitor, and I'm watching Ryan, it's the most magic that you'll ever get to feel.
Wow.
Autumn, that's a beautiful segue to you and your work shooting this film. I don't want to talk about the technical stuff so much. You are the first woman to shoot a film in 65 millimeters. The mixture of 65 millimeter and IMAX in this film is incredible. I actually saw this in London opening weekend on one of the 4 biggest IMAX screens on the planet. And what I was most impressed by was, with a movie like this, the technical. As a director, I'm like, there's just so much technical you have to deal with. It never gets in the way of the story. It never gets in the way of the performances. So I'm actually curious to hear from you about working with Ryan to build a production footprint, a shooting style where these folks could do everything they need to do, but y'all could still make something that plays like a blockbuster on the biggest screens on the planet.
Thank you. Thank you, Hannah. I mean, I really truly care for the people that are up here. That's one thing I think when Ryan calls, like she said, I'm really listening to kind of what's like heartfelt that he wants to convey to his audience, because he cares so much about his audience. And because I care about the people that are all up here, it will just infect the photography, like just naturally. And when you have someone that trusts you and you have like a partner next to you that really believes in you, and you see yourself reflected on set, you really feel in your bones that like you know where the camera should be, you know where the lighting should be, and especially in the South, that all of us on stage have a connection to. But yeah, I mean, it's also my job that, to make sure that everything's tight for him so that he can play with his actors and he can, tell the story that he wants to tell, because this one is so personal to him. So I want to make sure that I surround him with a team, and that, all the technical stuff we can put aside. We get that out of our way so that when we're together on set, we're just looking at what's in front of us. Because, Michael steps on set with that hat in that space with the texture of the church, it's like, you just know where the camera needs to be. I mean, it's like, it's in your bones. And I do feel that way with this film. It's like all of the feelings that you got on set, like watching Ryan every day. He was so happy to make this movie, and it's infectious, and you care. So when you care, this is the type of film that comes out of that.
Wow.
And yeah, I mean, and then what she said too.